Is that what happens?
Okay, if I continuously need my mid back adjusted, what else does that mean? And also we know that we tend to learn better while we're exercising. The atomic habit isn't going to the gym. It's
Today, we sit down and talk with Michael Santina. He's one of the premier chiropractors in the U.S. and has worked for some of the largest, highest revenue stream generating companies in the world, getting their employees back to work. He has a special focus on the everyday person with also another special focus on the professional athlete. Let's talk to Michael, let's listen, and let's learn.
So tell me first, take us through your professional journey. Tell us where you started. How did you get here today? And why did you open this business and this practice?
so, to give you some background, I'm from Alabama. And so grew up loving sports, Roll Tide, of course. And just,
We won't hold that against you.
right? Some UT fans here, Mike. So I grew up in a really medically inclined family. So uncle was pathologist, dad worked pharmaceutical rep, had medical doctors in the family. No physical medicine though, no physical therapy, no fitness, anything like that. And so there wasn't a lot of talk on like what can you do to be healthy and do for yourself. There was always a medication that we could take if we needed it, and so which was fine. And so when I got into college, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I kind of knew it would be something medical, but I was pretty lost for a few years because I was like, do I want to go be a medical doctor? Do I want to go into surgery? Do I want to be a PT? And luckily, somebody introduced me to chiropractic. There's a pretty big school down the road in Atlanta called Life University. Went there. That's where I met my fiance, Joanna, and we moved across the country to Austin, primarily because Austin was this cool, young, hip, healthy city. And we've migrated up to Dallas.
You went to Alabama first, ended up going to Life, and then to Austin. Tell me about how your focus in the chiropractic, area. How did that change as you went through your career, and what do you focus on now?
So obviously, any profession, you come out of school and you kind of have the basics and you're really trying to reteach yourself like what you're actually going to use day to day. And obviously, I've been out of school now for 10 years. Information changes. So stuff that was correct 12 years ago might not be so correct nowadays. And so I started off, pretty focused on, I guess you could say like strict chiropractic, like the adjustment. How was I going to adjust? Oh, this is going to help somebody's pain. Now I'm more in line with, okay, why do they need to be adjusted? Okay, if I continuously need my mid back adjusted, what else does that mean? Is it posture? Is it weakness in certain muscles? Is it that I'm overutilizing other muscles? And in reality, it's generally all of the above. And so we try to address all of those different aspects of somebody. Now, again, if we're working with an athlete, it might be more of the fact that, say, it's overutilization of certain muscles or incorrect biomechanics, versus if I'm working with somebody that works at a desk, we understand that it might be more postural. So it's getting to know each individual person and like their habits, but then also understanding that you're looking at it from a truly holistic view.
So you mentioned two things too that I think we talk about a lot, is that you deal with athletes and maybe the person that works in the office completely different. But now we have these athletes that we're still technically athletes, right? But now they're in the office, and now we're getting, because we have a lot of competitions nowadays, I think athletes and sports are something that people like to continue into their professional lives. How do you deal with those kind of combo or weekend warriors? Is it the same way you deal with athletes?
In a way, it's actually incredibly similar. Now, there's a little bit difference in that I know that like a truly professional athlete, for the most part, has all day. If I asked them to do 40 stretches and mobility exercises in a day, they probably have the time to get it done. But if I'm working with somebody that has a full-time job, has 3 kids, also is trying to go to the gym, it's having a lot of awareness of like, what time do they have to work with? So I'm not going to give them 40 exercises or a 2-hour warm up. And so it's trying to find a way to tie it into the day. There's times I give people stretches or exercises for the neck, and I tell them, hey, do it in the shower or you're getting ready. And then also having that conversation, honestly, pretty consistently with that person. Hey, what I've given you, is it working? Like, are you able to feel like you can get through these things and it's not stressing you out to be able to get them done? And sometimes I get people that say, hey, I can handle more. And other people that go, yeah, I can only do half of it because it's just between my day and my kids and all this, it's really stressing me out. And so it is having a little bit of flexibility. And then also trying to go, okay, yeah, I could give you the perfect workout or the perfect mobility plan, but then trying to give them things that's the best bang for their buck.
Gotcha. And since we're going that direction, let's stay on the same topic. You know, there's people watching today that are maybe watching because maybe they need a chiropractor right now, you know, or maybe they're just trying to improve their life. What are 3 concepts that you can give people today to help their wellness, help their life, overall well-being? You know, what would you tell them?
So I really like to view kind of our overall health in like 3 areas. So physical health, what I like to call internal health, and mental health, of course. So physical health being like, what do I do for exercise? Do I stretch? Do I have good mobility in my hips? Internal health being more like, what does my blood work look like? What does my diet look like? What am I putting physically into my body? And then mental health kind of speaks for itself. So like one from each one of those categories, the way I like to think about it would be like physical health. In a way, I like to overlap activities, if that makes sense. So if I'm in the gym and I have an hour to work out, I'm probably also going to listen to a podcast. I can learn at the same time. So, you know, if I'm short on time, now I can double up. Instead of trying to take an hour during the day to learn or read, and an hour during the day to work out, I can pair those with each other. And also we know that we tend to learn better while we're exercising.
Right.
And there's a lot of ways we can do different things like that. Another one would be in overlapping activities. Hey, I want to spend time with friends and family, but I want to be physically active. Let's go on a walk with each other. Let's hike. Let's go play pickleball, whatever it may be. But so now you're doubling up. I'm not just going to the gym and bench pressing for an hour. I'm getting some quality social time with people that I like care for, but I'm also being physically active at the same time.
Gotcha.
If we went more into the internal health from a nutrition standpoint, I guess one thing I'm really big on is like, how much protein are we getting in? And this is less of like your traditional bodybuilder, like I just need to have as much protein as humanly possible in a day. But we should have a relatively strict minimum of protein that we should get in the day to just function as human beings, whether that's male, female, 20-year-old, 70-year-old. And I think a lot of times people really underestimate how much protein they're getting in the day. Oh, I had 2 eggs this morning. And you're like, that's great, but that's probably 12 to 14 grams of protein. You should probably have them close to 100,
Right.
minimum.
Yeah, and over, 100% of cholesterol or so if they're not working out.
Yeah. Right. So now you're throwing a lot of other things in. And again, you deal with the person that's stressed on their diet or just frankly doesn't care. Like they're just not going to deal with it. So I tell them, hey, minimum, hit your protein requirements. Now that doesn't mean go get Jimmy Dean sausages and like microwave them that way, but through like healthy protein, fish, grass-fed beef, good chicken, Greek yogurt, hitting those minimums. And then if they want to go more in depth, then we can discuss fats and carbs and processed foods and chemicals. But if they want the bare minimum and that's all they care about, focus on the protein. Get your minimum protein in. What I like to do, and some research studies have shown some promises, is get not most, but a large amount of protein first in the morning, right after you wake up, and a large amount of protein towards the end of the night, basically so that your body is constantly using it. You can actually, you want protein in the middle of the day, but you don't have to space it out evenly. Some research has been showing getting a lot in the morning and a lot at night actually has a greater effect on like building muscle.
It's interesting, yeah.
And then again, we talked about mental health. So for me, mental health, obviously there's so many areas you can go: meditation, prayer, even just learning. You don't see too many people like leave the gym pretty depressed. Like exercise has shown a lot of benefits for depression and anxiety. So one book I really like is Atomic Habits. So going kind of from a mental health standpoint of like breaking down something that seems really complex and might give me a lot of anxiety and making it really simple. So I think an example he gave in the book was, hey, the atomic habit isn't going to the gym. It's putting shoes by the door, setting an alarm.
Right.
And it's like, and your goal still isn't to go to the gym. It's to put the shoes on. Okay. And if I put the shoes on, it's more than likely I'm going to start ending up going to the gym. And then once you're really good at putting the shoes on, it's getting to the gym. And whether that's a home gym or you're driving somewhere, if you're there for 5 minutes, great. You met the goal. You made it to the gym. If you want to leave, leave.
Right.
But you're there. So you might as well do something. And trying to have that conversation with people, the traditional American like workout is like an hour. It's just pretty standard. If I do anything, it's an hour. but you can get a great workout in 15 minutes, as we know,
Right.
30 minutes, an hour and a half. It just depends. So if I worked out really hard today and I hit an hour and I hit 15 minutes tomorrow, awesome. Like you meet a lot of people that go, oh, I wasn't able to work out an hour today, so I did nothing. And you're like, but that 15 minutes could have been really important. Okay, well, I didn't have any equipment. Great, go on a walk. That would have been good for your heart. So again, trying to make it really easy for people and a little bit less stressful, which then in turn helps with mental health. I don't want somebody going to work out and that creates a whole nother, negative feedback loop of anxiety to where they weren't able to go much. So they were anxious about that. Now they feel guilty and just trying to cut that out.
Talk to me a little bit more about customized care as it relates to chiropractic care, because I think there is a thought that someone who's outside the industry, people come into the chiropractor, they say, oh, my back hurts at this level. Okay, you get adjusted, you walk out, everything's a peachy day. Is that what happens?
Not always. And then for some people, I meet people, there's the occasional like 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000 person. They'll walk in, they get adjusted. That's all they wanted and they don't want anything else. And we do it and they swear that like everything's fixed. And it might actually be that way. So it's great if that's all they needed. Most people don't fall into that category.
Okay.
Again, I feel that a lot of times needing to get adjusted is the symptom of other issues versus like the outright fix. So like if I have poor posture and I'm like hunched forward, I'm kind of stuck in flexion.
Yeah.
So now we're going, okay, from a chiropractic standpoint, I'm never going to use the terminology where I say, oh, this bone's out of place. I'm going to talk about joint restriction or we're restricted in this joint or this group of joints. So we take like the desk worker, like we mentioned, stuck in flexion. So we have trouble getting into extension, being stuck in flexion. We're probably going to have issues with some rotation. And so if I just adjust you, great, you feel good for an hour, you feel good for however many days, it's going to return. So we have to change the habit, the positioning. At that point, being here is going to create, we won't go down the list. You can have tight pecs, tight upper traps, tight levator.
Sure.
Then you get into weaker muscles too. Weak serratus, weak middle traps. And so you're trying to create this plan per person to basically bring the chest back, strengthen the muscles back here. Because I mean, obviously we've heard it for years. People say, watch your posture. And nobody actually knows what that means.
Right.
At least twice a day, I get asked if buying the t-shirts that just yank you back would be awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, no. The muscles that need to hold you in good posture are already weak.
Yeah.
Why would you put you in a shirt that allows those muscles to do even less?
Right. Make sure those same muscles weaker.
Yeah. So now we take off the shirt. We're actually in a worse spot than we were beforehand.
Right.
And so do I think the adjustment can be like powerful and really helpful and get mobility into joints? And I mean, I love that about the field. And I mean, obviously I'm a chiropractor.
Yeah.
But through the 10 years of experience, I realized like just adjusting 95% of the time doesn't get it done. And I don't want people to need me every 3 days or every 4 days to adjust them for them to be able to make it through their day to day. Because if that's the case, I've become another Advil.
Yeah.
I'm just a longer acting Advil. Oh, instead of 4 hours, it lasts 4 days.
Right. No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So on that same road, what are you excited about in the industry? You know, is there anything that gets you excited or things you're looking forward to in the industry?
So, I mean, a few things. One, stuff like this, social media. I mean, it's booming. There's so much information out there now. Yeah. Most chiropractors have information on their Instagrams or their, TikTok. You can find information about physical therapy.
Oh yeah.
It's out there. The hard part is like discerning, like what's good for you, what's good information. Obviously, I wouldn't want somebody that's, 50, has never worked out in their life to go find an NFL-based workout and go, oh, that would be great because I want to look like him. And then they go out and they're running parachute drills. That'd be pretty bad. So there is some discernment that comes into that. But knowing that all that information is one, out there, and two, unfiltered. So you're getting stuff that a lot of times doesn't have like a monetary purpose behind it. That's nice. I also think that there's a lot of cool research in the world of like physical medicine, in the world of nutrition and supplements that are coming out. And there's just this focus on how can people help themselves, which in reality doesn't make a lot of people a lot of money, which is hard to fund those studies because most of the time these big studies are getting funded by a company. And so now it's like, it's really cool that people are coming in with private money and going, let's fund a research study on like why exercise is good for my heart. When in reality, nobody's going to make money if I exercise on my own and my heart's great. Now, it might take some money off of like maybe the healthcare system and some stresses on the healthcare system, but it is awesome to see some of that being done.
And you worked with a lot of different numerous types of people and companies, by the way.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about your experience, like whatever you can talk about.
Yeah.
What type of companies have you worked for in the past?
So I've worked for a lot of different types of practices and companies. So I've worked for companies that were like pretty privately owned, one person. I have worked in chiropractic offices that do primarily adjust. I've worked in chiropractic companies that were integrated, had a nurse practitioner on site, a PT. I've also worked for larger companies that have contracts with other large companies, and you're working with all of healthcare. I still spend a few days a week doing that, working with nurses, doctors, mental health, PT, which is really nice and has been really eye-opening to watch everybody so cohesively work together. I mean, I've had times where people come in and, we check their blood pressure and it's 220 over 150. I can then go grab a nurse or a doctor and be like, hey, can you check them out real quick and see what's going on? Every now and then, they have to go to the ER. Other times you find out it's nervous, they do an EKG and they're totally fine. We can continue to work with them. At that point, you find out that, they were really anxious about seeing me because I'm a chiropractor. They didn't know what to expect. So then we also had that conversation of like, do you have anxiety a lot? And they're like, yeah, all the time, every day. And you're like, well, we have mental health.
Yeah.
You want to see them? Oh, I'm busy and I can't do that. Well, great. Mental health can actually do virtual appointments. And so it's been really cool to work with that company. Now, obviously, my private company is not that. It's just me, but trying to mimic that in building kind of a community within like where I'm at, Victory Park in downtown Dallas, to where I have each one of those things if somebody were to need it.
How do people find you? If someone's looking at this right now and they say, I want to go see Dr. Santina, he seems like a really knowledgeable guy that maybe can help my problem. How do they find you?
So a lot of different ways. So we have the website, revivalsportstherapy.com. You can reach out to me through there. We have our phone number, which is 469-212-4530. I'm pretty good at getting back to that as soon as I can, unless I'm with somebody. Then we have an Instagram. So it's Revival Sports Therapy, DFW. Trying to make an active effort to put more out on the Instagram, put information on kind of actually everything we talked about, mental health, nutrition, and also some physical medicine as well. And so they can reach out through basically any of those avenues and it'll come directly to me.
Why choose the kettlebell?
I think it can be a little bit more functional. I mean, obviously it's a term that gets thrown around a lot.
Sure.
And I can use a dumbbell to do snatches and do similar things. The kettlebell just seems a little bit smoother.
Right.
At times a little bit, because the weight's at the bottom a little bit different to hold. So I can do farmer's carries, suitcase carries, a lot of different things with the kettlebell. That can be done with other things, but I prefer the kettlebell.
Yeah. No, let's step back a little bit because you mentioned something. You said, functional gets thrown around a lot. I think I totally 100% agree with you. Let's define it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So define it in the terms of functional. You have a kettlebell and you're trying to get someone to do a movement, or you have a bench press and someone's sitting there saying, hey, I'm going to bench press. What's the difference? Why isn't the bench press a functional movement as opposed to say, kettlebell lunges or, goblet squats or something like that?
Yeah. So, I think that the really easy parameter, like, look, is this functional? Like, will I ever be doing this movement outside of the gym? Like, in an argument, like a bench press arguably could be functional. If I ever find myself underneath like a car and I need to push it straight up.
Right.
Okay. In that situation, bench press finally became functional. But even like on a football field, bench press is incredibly unfunctional. Like what point is somebody going to stand in front of me and go, hey, go ahead and like push me?
Yeah.
It's going to be at different angles. It might be down. It might be up versus like you said, the lunge. Like there's a lot of times during the day, I'm like lunging because I dropped something behind the dryer and I know I have to reach for it.
Right.
That's actually a conversation I have with people a lot is like, and again, this is going to be different per person. Functional movements need to kind of match what you do day to day because our goal is to make your day-to-day life easier.